Hey, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto died protecting Konoha but was reborn stronger than the gods? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. A blonde man stands in the midst of the carnage made by the rampaging demon fox, Kyuubi no Kitsune. His hair rests between his shoulder blades in a ponytail, and is wearing a black kasode under a white kimono, a white hakama, a black obi sash, Halo Ichigo outfit from Bleach, and two katana, one on each. On the right a red hilt wrapped in black, and on the left is a sky blue wrapped in white. Before him stands two ninja, one man and one woman, from the village of the Hidden Leaf Village, Konoha. Both had a chain attached to their chests. Both stare wide-eyed at the man as he pulls the red and black hilted sword. He walks calmly to the man, whose chain is close to his chest. "May you find peace." He slams the hilt of his sword into the man's forehead and the man disappears, a smile on his face. His attention turns to the woman. As he approaches, she falls to her knees and shuts her eyes, resigning to her fate. She hears him getting closer and then stop. She waits for him to hit her as well, but instead she feels a hand on her shoulder. Her eyes open wide to find him on her right, sword still drawn and facing behind her. "You have nothing to fear. As long as your chain remains attached to your physical body, you can be saved. If it breaks, pray that one of us find you before it reaches your chest." He sheathes his sword and walks away as a medical team reaches where her body lay, paying the man no heed as if he weren't there. They pay him no mind because they cannot see him. He is the soul of a deceased Iwa ninja, killed not 6 months prior, by his own brother no less. His brother had escaped from Iwa early in life and had come to Konoha. In the last Great War, they found themselves on opposite sides of the battlefield. While he used their family's techniques, his brother used unorthodox tactics and both fear and awe-inspiring jutsu, the likes of which he had never seen or heard of. While he lay dying, his brother approached him and they spoke for the first and last time in 20 years, their last words being what they had hoped to accomplish in life, and though he couldn't in life, he was given the chance in the afterlife. When he crossed over, the Shinigami appeared before him with an offer. He would be given the chance to become the Shinigami. When he asked why he was given the chance, the god laughed and said, "The title of Shinigami is passed every 1,000 years. My time is almost up and I have selected many candidates, but I sense something that likes you different from the others. I will test all the candidates, and I need your answer now." He agreed and was told what his job would be if he were chosen. Upon hearing the true purpose of the Shinigami, the determination that was both a blessing and curse of his family took hold of him. From the hundreds of candidates, only 7 were left. Of those, only 2 were human, 3 were Oni like the present Shinigami, and 2 were from a race that neither would name. Though he was on fairly good terms with them, he had quickly become friends with the other human candidate. Said person was walking towards him. "Hey man." He wore the same outfit, except in opposite colors. His sword was strapped to his back, and his hair was orange. "Guess who?" "Hey Ichigo. Didn't you say your brother is here?" "Yeah, he looks almost exactly like me." "Well, I haven't seen him, but that doesn't mean the others haven't." "I know." He sighs. "I'm actually hoping he's alive. Even if he did kill me, one of us should be allowed to realize our dreams." "Aren't you living yours in a way?" "Yeah, but the only one who recognize it are you and Shinigami." "Better than nothing." Ichigo plops down on the ground. "I can't believe that Shinigami won't let us take care of this oversized furball. We can't." He made himself visible to them, and in order to effectively fight him we would have to do, and that would disrupt the world of the living. Yeah, I know, but I don't like the fact that we have to sit here and watch while cleaning up the mess. I feel the same, but orders are orders and you know what happens if we don't follow them. What about that other guy, Oro something, that snake freak that has Shinigami so pissed? Can we kill him if we find him?" He shrugged. "Don't know, never said we couldn't, but I doubt he'd still be here after the shit he pulled." "Damn it. Why can't we ever use our combat skills?" "What skills? You get you ass handed to you in almost every spar. Not everybody can be as gifted as you when it comes to using our Zanpakuto. You know you're the most likely choice for be chosen. You've been in his favor since day one." Flashback. The Shinigami stood at the center of a large room, the walls covered in swords. Every Shinigami has carried a Zanpakuto. This is an important tool, because without it, you are unable to help the newly departed souls in the living world pass on. If they don't pass on, they will grow to hate the living, and this hate can cause them to become demons. If a single person's hate was strong enough, they become like those called Biju. These tailed demons are the most powerful beings you will ever encounter. You may not even be able to kill them. One of the dumber occupants looked around the room. These swords don't look like anything special. In a second, the Shinigami was where the man stood before a bone-like dagger in his hand, and the man just disappeared. That is what will happen to the ones you use a Zanpakuto on. They will be sent to either heaven or hell depending on his, her actions in life. That is also what will happen to any of you that disobey my orders and those who fail my tests. In the end, only one of you will remain, and that one will get my title. If more than one passes all my tests, which has never happened as far as I'm aware, they will have a battle to determine who is worthy. The other will be sent back to where I brought them from. The first test is now. Pick a Zanpakuto and tell me the name of the sword. If you can't, you fail. Go one at a time. 20 went before him, but only 5 passed. When they said the name of the swords, they changed, not always into a sword. The man behind him was smiling. I can't wait to get mine. The blonde turned to him. What makes you so confident, Carrot Top? My name's Ichigo, and it's because I can hear him already. It's barely a whisper, but it's there. It was the blonde's turn now, and he walked around the room, strained his ears to hear the whispering Ichigo was talking about. He closed his eyes as he continued to walk. He went halfway around the room before stopping and turning to the wall. In front of him was 2 swords. One had a red handle wrapped in black and a black sheath. The other had a sky blue handle wrapped in white and a white sheath. Which one is it? He stared at the 2 swords for a moment. The Shinigami was growing impatient. Is there a problem? The blonde shook his head and grabbed both swords. The Shinigami gave him a confused look. Why did you take both? I hear them both. Then what are their names? He held up the black and red sword in his left hand. Awaken Akuma. The new sword had no handguard. The handle was a single piece twisted with golden stripes every few inches. At the base it was twisted into a spiral with a red gem surrounded by a silver ring at the center. At the base of the blade, the metal was formed into a demonic-looking face, with a grayish-purple gem for an eye and dull golden metal for the teeth. The blade itself was dark purple and serpentine. Starting from the face, the blade was the same width as before, but grew wider towards the curved point. The Shinigami smiled slightly. And the other? He held up the other sword in his right hand. Take flight, Enzuru. The sword was slightly longer than Akuma. It had a sky blue crystal at the end of the hilt, which was dark blue. The handguard only protected the underside of the hilt. It was shaped in an S shape with an extra spine by the upper half of the hilt. At the point of the upper half the handguard, there was a rounded indent to the top of the blade. There is a smaller one on the underside as well. The blade is curved into a point, but otherwise straight. The sky blue blade gleams in the light and almost appears to be made of ice. The Shinigami's smile went to an all-out grin. You surprise me. No one other than the original Shinigami could hear the names of 2 swords. I look forward to seeing what you'll do at the future. The swords transformed back and he went over to where the others waited. Ichigo stepped forward and walked straight to the largest sword in the room. The moment he touched it, the blade transformed into a large cleaver. It had no handguard, white cloth wrapped around the handle and some hanging off. The blade was black with a sliver edge. You don't need to say its name, impressive, but do you know its name? Zangetsu. Flashback end. I think he hold both of us in high regards. He said he was impressed by you too. Besides, I'm not so sure I want the job anymore. Ichigo looked at him in shock. What do you mean by that? I want to help people, but as Shinigami I can't interfere because of the laws that keep balance. If I broke one of those laws to help, I would also doom the people I save. I'd rather be in the afterlife than sit idly by and watch as things like this happen. He waves his hand in front of him toward the Kyuubi. If it were my choice, I would have stopped this demon before it came within 100 kilometers of my brother's home. So this is about him? In a way, my brother may have killed me, but he doesn't deserve this. Just like I want to help people. He wishes to be his village's pillar of strength, their hero. He may get his wish. Isn't that him on the oversized toad? He saw what his friend was talking about. A toad rivaling Kyuubi's height was fast approaching the demon, and on top stood a blonde figure wearing red and white robes. What the hell is he thinking? He can't kill a demon. A blinding light came from the top of the toad and the two stared in horror and awe. How the hell did he summon him? What the hell is he thinking? I have no idea, but I plan to find out. He moves forward as if to run and phases out of sight. Ichigo snorted. Flash step, huh? Damn, he's always a step ahead of me. The Yondaime Hokage stood, arms crossed on top of the boss toad, Gamabunta, facing the nine-tailed fox. He had just used a new jutsu to summon the Shinigami to seal the fox, but in return it would cost his life. He could feel and see the god's hand reaching through his stomach towards the fox. At least I'll take you with me, demon. My village will be able to live on because of my sacrifice. A man appeared out of thin air, one he had never thought he would see again. What have you done, Otouto? Arashi smiled. Nisan, I guess this means that I really will die here. I brought Shinigami here to seal the demon within me, and then as payment he will take my life and in doing so kill the demon. You're an idiot, Arashi, you have no idea what you've done. You won't just be killed, your soul will be tormented for all eternity within the being you summoned, and at constant war with the demon you hope to kill. As long as my home is safe, I don't care what happens to me. The Shinigami laughed. Fool, even I can't hold a demon as strong as Kyuubi indefinitely. Sooner or later he will get free and he will more than likely attack again to get his revenge. Next time there may not be another to sacrifice themselves like you have. What do you propose we do then? A newborn child would be able to adapt to the demon's presence. In time the child would be able to access the demon's power, and when they die the demon really would die. There are no newborns, the youngest is a few weeks old. Shinigami, I'll take the soul of the demon. You have no physical body to contain it in, you would have no better chance of containing it than I do. You have the power to put both our souls into a body. You can create the body, and seal my memories and powers. It will be as though a new life stated this day, and I would remain in the living world until the body dies. I will do this on one condition, Orochimaru must die. I'll allow you to keep your two Zanpakuto to accomplish this. When your life is in danger, your power will return temporarily to assist you. After the first time, you will be able to call upon anything you knew in your life before this point. Thank you, Shinigami, you will have saved my village from two of our most dangerous enemies. Don't delude yourself, it is my job to ensure balance and Orochimaru has disrupted it. As for the fox, even if I didn't want to, you summoned me and I required to fulfill your request. Well brother, it seems that you have obtained your dream, you will be the hero who stopped Kyuubi. Who knows, I may still be able to obtain mine. Kyuubi's body collapsed on the ground with one last deafening roar. It's time, it will be painful. Wish me luck, you won't need it, Naruto. Arashi held out his hand and Naruto smiled before grasping it. In another blinding flash, the fox and toad disappeared completely. A young gray-haired boy rushes across the battlefield to where the toad had been standing. The boy is wearing a dark blue long-sleeved shirt, pants, and face mask that covers the lower half of his face. His leaf headband covers his left eye. He found the Yondaime lying on the ground, smile on his face and a blonde baby boy in his arms. Sensei, why is there a baby on the battlefield, what happened? Kakashi, take this boy to Sarutobi, tell him to keep the boy safe. What's wrong, Sensei? The jutsu I used has a price, it takes the user's life. Who is this boy? He's our savior, Naruto Uzumaki. The Yondaime's eyes slowly close as he speaks, but the smile never leaves his face. Kakashi picks up the boy and his sensei's body. He gets his first real look at the boy. He has short blonde hair and 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek. He also sees the seal on the boy's stomach. His visible eye widens as he realizes what happened to Kyuubi. There are also seals on his arms, but he is unable to read them due to their size. Unknown to Kakashi, Ichigo stands not far from him. Good luck, my friend, I have no doubt that we'll meet again. At the age of 10, Naruto stood at just under 5 foot, wore a long, wide-sleeved blue shirt, black pants and ninja sandals. He used a stripe of black cloth to keep his shoulder-length hair from his eyes. Like most kids his age, he was to attend the Ninja Academy. Today was the first day. At the moment, he stood before his instructor Iruka Amino. Uzumaki, where were you today that caused you to skip class? I was training Amino-san, and I would prefer you just call me Naruto. I will call you what I want to, and you are to refer to me as Sir or Iruka-sensei. No, sensei is a word given by those willing to learn. The only reason I'm here is because Oji-san said I needed an education of some kind. I don't want to be a ninja. Then why are you training? I don't know you well enough to tell you, Iruka-san. You know I have to info Hokage-sama. Go ahead, it's not like he can do anything to make me come. Naruto just turned around and walked out of the classroom. It's getting to be easy to move again, time to increase the weights. He went to his apartment, and when he left, he slowly made his way to his training ground. It was deep in the forest, in a clearing only 20 feet wide, completely surrounded by trees. In the center is a large tree, its trunk covered in fist-shaped imprints, some coming close to an inch deep. He started by throwing punch after punch at nothing to get used to the new weight, switching between arms every other time. He then did the same with kicks. After at 200 with each limb, he went up to the tree. He held his hands up near his face and was slightly bouncing on the pads of his feet. He punched the trunk with incredible speed repeatedly and threw in a kick from time to time. He could feel someone's eyes on him, and at first he didn't care, but as he continued, it started to annoy him, and it was showing as he started to hit the tree harder. After 3 hours, he got fed up with whoever it was that was watching him and swung full strength at the large tree, making a small spider web break in the tree bark. The one watching him fell from the branches due to the sudden violent shaking. It's not wise to spy on another's training, Iruka-san. Some might not be as lenient as me. What do you want now? I'm trying to figure you out. You say that you don't want to be a ninja, yet you train harder than most jonin. You were moving faster before, which suggesting weights, and above all else, you show no respect to anyone, not even the Hokage, but when you spoke about him earlier, your tone was full of respect and at least admiration for him, maybe even love. What's your point? He's one of the only 3 that seems to actually give a damn about me in this whole village. As for the weights, they're part of my training. Being a ninja, I have no reason to be one. I already have another source of income. I know about the orphans' funds. I was given the same when I was a little older than you, but they are nowhere near enough to live on, and they end when you turn 12. The smile that appeared on Naruto's face was the first bit of emotion Iruka had seen from him. You thought I was talking about those pathetic rations? I was lucky to live to be 6 on that, but I found a much more profitable income since then. What are you talking about? What job could a 6-year-old do? Take a look at my record. I'm sure OG-san keeps it in his office. If it weren't for this, I would be barely able to afford ramen, which reminds me, I told Ayame-san that I would stop for dinner tonight. If after you see OG-san and still want to talk, I'll probably be there. Bring him along if you can. I haven't seen him since my birthday when he told me I'd be attending the academy. Naruto walked away again, disappearing in the shadows cast by the trees. Iruka smiled slightly and disappeared in a puff of smoke. The Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi, watched the whole exchange through his crystal ball using Tomagain no Jutsu. He heard the popping sound and glanced at the newcomer before pulling out a folder. You're here to see this, I believe, Iruka-kun. So you were also spying on his training. Yes, but my ways are more discreet than yours. But you should know that you are rather fortunate. He's never opened up so much for anyone other than me. I don't blame him. Wasn't he kicked out of the orphanage at 4? It's a miracle he's still alive. Not really, he's a tough kid. All the information he spoke of is in there. He placed the folder on the desk in front of Iruka, who grabbed it and started reading quietly aloud. Taken into custody 3 times for assaulting a Konoha citizen. No convictions. 3 charges of resisting arrest. No convictions. 15 charges of disturbing the peace. Fined. 4 charges of taking part of underground fights. Arrested and bailed out. He looked up at the Hokage. You had to be shitting me, sir. That's the source of his income, street fighting? It would seem so, and from what he told me, he's been entering them since he was 6. 6? Don't these people have any morals? Why in the world would they let a 6-year-old compete in those matches? I can honestly say I don't know. Naruto might be able to shed some light on it, but he won't even tell me all the details, probably fear of them not letting him enter anymore, or that I'll shut them down, which I'd be pressured to do anyway. But they never hold it in the same place twice, so tracking them is rather difficult. How can you just allow him to enter these fights, sir? It's not my decision. He'll do what he wants no matter what I say, as I'm sure you're aware after what happened today at the academy. There is something about that I don't understand. Why does he not want to be a ninja? For the reason he told you, he sees no reason to be one. Few people see him as a human being, but even they do nothing to help the boy other than Tuchi Ichiraku and his daughter Ayame. They are the only shop that allows him and that doesn't overcharge him. He ate there every meal every day for 2 years, then he started in the fights and he had more money so he could buy other things to eat. He still tries to go there at least once a week, sometimes more if he's in a hurry. Most ninja choose their profession to make a name for themselves, protect their families and/or village, or to prove themselves to someone. Do any of those seem to fit Naruto from what you've seen? I would think he would want to prove that he is human and not a demon like they think. How would you suggest he do that? The villagers and council will see any improvement or advance as an increasing threat, and if they do see him as a human that he's relying on the demon's power to help him fight. But that could be a good thing, he would be a valuable asset for us. If I were willing to do that, I would have handed him over to Danzo the day the fox was defeated. He is a person, not a mindless weapon. Doing something like that could cause him to become unstable. If that were to happen, we could be faced with another massacre on a broader scale. I suppose you're right, but if you know he won't become a ninja, why enroll him in the academy? I fear that by being shunned due to the older generation's fear and hate has caused him to be antisocial, and hopefully while in class he'll be able to make friends away from their parents. I can see what I can do about getting him to go to class, but like I said, he doesn't always listen. Thank you, sir. Since you were watching, you know that he would like us to come to eat Chiraku's for dinner. Yes, but be sure to make it clear that you're not paying for him. Even though he has a substantial amount of money, he's not one to turn down a free meal. And with the amount of ramen he eats, it's surprising that he has money to live on, even with his winnings. Iruka paled at the thought. Well, let's be off before my assistant shows up with more paperwork. With that they both disappeared in puffs of smoke, just before the door opened. A man came in with a stack of papers in his arm, almost so much that he couldn't see where he was going. Hokage-sama, I have the results of the Anbu testing that require your attention. He set the stack on the desk and looked around to find no one. He seems to have left for the day. Oh well, it can wait till tomorrow. With that he left the office and started bringing another stack. Naruto was starting on his 8th bowl when Sarutobi sat on his left and Iruka on his right. Did you finish the paperwork early, Oji-san, or did you just take a break to read? The aged Hokage blushed a bit and coughed before ordering, Iruka just after him. I take it that since you're here, Iruka, that there is still something you don't understand. Actually, I would like to know why they allowed you to participate at the age of 6. They don't care who fights as long as they can pay the entry fee. At first it was rather difficult to do that and pay for meals, but after I started winning it became easier and easier. Coincidentally, the rations for orphans is the entry fee, and you'd be surprised by the number of ninja that participate in these fights. What kind of fights are they? Only taijutsu, no chakra enhancements or weapons, but other than those anything goes. My last opponent wore body armor, but didn't cover the 2 weakest parts of a male body. After a few minutes of dodging and watching him move, I hit the bastard in the groin, and when he fell to his knees, I broke his jaw. Ayame came out of the kitchen with Sarutobi's and Iruka's orders. I really wish you would enter those fights, Naruto. I know Ayame-ne-san, but it's actually safer than being a ninja. They don't allow killing, as it would ruin business, and they would lose paying customers. Some of the people betting on the fights might not come back if their favorite fighter died. At least they have some morals, I guess, even if they do let a child fight. I may be a child, but I kicked a Jonin's ass last year, and I've only gotten stronger since. He cheated and I still won. The Hokage raised an eyebrow. How so? He used chakra when striking, he didn't even touch me, but it felt like I was kicked by a mule. The ones listening were shocked. Did this person have white pupil-less eyes? Yeah, how did you know? He was using Jukin, the Hyuga's taijutsu style. They pushed chakra into their opponent's body to stop the flow of chakra and temporarily paralyze them. Well, whatever he tried to do didn't work, but he obviously thought it did because he damn near pissed himself when I stood back up. He took out his wallet and threw down some bills. I gonna get going. See y'all later, Oji-san, Iruka. Ayame-ne-san, Tuchi Ojii-san. I'll see you tomorrow for lunch. Tuchi poked his head out of the kitchen. See ya then, kid. Naruto, before you go, I would appreciate it if you would go to class from now on. I don't want to be a ninja, Oji-san. It makes no sense to learn skills that I won't use. You need to have some kind of education. All I ask is that you go and learn. If you don't use the skills you learn, then you don't, but you just might find something that interests you. Naruto thought it over for a minute. Fine. By the way, since you were enrolled, You are required to take the class at least 3 times. If you fail before you can be taken out of it. Naruto smiled slightly. Sneaky old man, getting me to agree before giving me all the facts. Oh well, I don't go back on my word. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, Iruka. Naruto waved as he pushed back the flap to leave the stand. He didn't live far from the stand, and he found himself in his apartment in a few minutes. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He dropped onto his bed and fell asleep quickly. The first year was the basics of chakra, history and theory. In the second year, things started getting interesting as they started using chakra, working on the 3 basic jutsu, henge, kawarimi and bunshin, using weapons, and having sparring matches, but they still studied history and theory. About a week into the second year, Iruka made an announcement. Listen up, today we will not be having class as normal. There were some cheers. Instead, we'll be watching a kenjutsu demonstration by the 5 best swordsmen produced last year. They will be engaging each other all at the same time to determine which one will be the apprentice of the best swordsman in Konoha Hayate Gecko. So if you'll all follow me please. He led them out to the academy training field. A group of 3 boys and 2 girls stood there, a brunette boy in front of the others. Iruka-sensei, aspiring ninja in training, we are proud to show you the art that is kenjutsu. We will first show you a one-on-one battle, and then if any of you would like to, you can try your hand at it against whoever you choose, and no, we will be holding back so as not to hurt you. I'll take you on without seeing your demonstration. Everyone looked over at Naruto who stood beside Iruka. Have you handled a sword before? No, and yet you still wish to try before seeing how? Yes. Very well, who would you like to face? All of you. All of us? He laughed. You can't be serious. I am. We only have the 5 practice swords. That's fine. I don't need your pity either, you don't need to hold back. In fact, I'll make a bet with you, if one of you make me fall to my knees, that person will get 10,000 ryo. Iruka will hold the money. And if we don't, you don't get paid. They all smirked. Deal. He gave the money to Iruka, who looked worried, and walked towards the group. They surrounded him. Whenever you're ready, kid, let's go. They all rushed forward and Naruto dodged the strike from a silver-haired boy behind him and grabbed his arms. He pulled on them and blocked a strike from the brunette boy coming from his right side and kicked the black-haired girl in front of him in the stomach, making her fall on her back. He elbowed the one he was holding, making him release the hold he had on the practice sword. Naruto pulled it from him and stuck the boy in the side before spinning around to block another attempt from a redhead girl. The boy didn't get up, but crawled away so he wouldn't be stepped on while holding his side. Naruto went on the offense and did a baseball swing, knocking the defending black-haired boy's sword away. He spun around and blocked another of the redhead's attacks while kicking backwards and hitting the previous opponent in the groin, making him fall to his knees while dropping his sword. The black-haired girl was back up and attacking again, but he just blocked her attempts. The redhead attacked him from the back while he was blocking, but he released the sword with one hand and used his arm to block. The wooden sword shattered when it hit. The girl looked shocked. How did you do that? I wear weights, and you were unlucky enough to hit them. As he said this, he pushed his blade forward with his one hand and shoved the girl's away, leaving an opening to her sword arm. He took it and hit her just below the elbow, making her sword fall to the ground before sweeping her legs out from under her. Getting over her shock, the redhead attempts to pick up the sword of her fallen comrade, but finds Naruto's at her neck. You'd be dead. He pulled the blade away as the final opponent charged blindly. It was the boy who gave the introduction. Naruto just sidestepped and hit him in the back. The boy fell forward, getting a mouth full of dirt. He tossed the practice sword at the boy's feet. This Hayate guy must have some low standards if one of you were to be his apprentice. He walked back to Iruka and took his money, before noticing everyone looking at him wide-eyed and another onlooker. Let me guess, Hayate Gecko? The sickly-looking man walked towards him. That's me. He started having a coughing fit. You seem rather adept at using the sword. Where did you learn? I didn't. This is the first time that I've used a sword. Could have fooled me. Cough. You took out the 5 of them easily, and had it been, cough, a real fight, could have killed all of them. Cough. I guess what you said is true. My standards are low if they were all beaten by, cough, an academy student that's an amateur at kenjutsu. Maybe I should wait a year, cough, and take you as my apprentice instead. I'm faltered, but I decline. I have no intention of becoming a ninja. The only reason I'm here is because the Hokage enrolled me because I'm an orphan. I would rather not be here at all. He turned his head away from Hayate. Iruka, since this demonstration is over, I'm going home. See ya tomorrow. He walked past Hayate and didn't look back. Hayate however looked at his retreating form. Iruka, who is that boy? Naruto Uzumaki. Hayate smiled as he continued to watch the boy leave. Uzumaki, huh, what an interesting kid. Naruto stood in his shower as the water cascaded down his body. It felt like I wasn't in control of my body. The moment they attacked, it like I was watching someone else do the fighting. He looked down at his arms and the tattoos he had as long as he could remember. Akuma and Enzuru, the left hand of a demon and the right hand of an angel. He shuts off the water and exits the shower. He wraps a towel around his waist before leaving the bathroom to get dressed. As he's pulling on his pants, he hears something in the other room. He quickly finishes putting on his pants and moves quietly into the other room. He found the redhead from the Kenjutsu demonstration sitting on his couch, looking right at him. He took in her appearance. She wore a red trench coat over a pair of black pants and a black shirt. Her hair was tied up by her headband, leaving a few strands to fall onto her face. Why are you here? I was hoping I could get to know the one that kicked our asses so easily, even if it's only a little bit. Why? Do I really need a reason? I suppose not, so what do you want to know? Why you're so strong for an academy student, things you like to do, anything really. Let me go finish getting dressed, and we can go get something to eat while we talk. Do you like ramen? I don't eat it much, but I think's it good. Okay, I'll be back in a second. When he came back out, he was wearing the same basic outfit that he was earlier, but the shirt was red. The weights wear underneath the clothes again. There's a place not far from here, it's nothing fancy, but the owner's really nice and the ramen is to die for. She nodded and followed him out, noticing that he didn't lock the door. You're just going to leave it open for anyone to walk in. I can understand when you're home, but this just isn't a good idea. I have nothing of value, anything I do I keep on me. If you look closely, you'll see that the frame of the door has been repaired before too. They don't check to see if the door's locked or not. They just kick the door down. Someone's broken in before? It's normally 3 times a year, twice I was here. Once when I was 5 and again the night I turned 8. Sorry, I hope nothing bad happened. Nope, the first time I escaped through the window of the bedroom, the second time they went through it. And I got charged with disturbing the peace, assaulting a Konoha citizen, and then resisting arrest. They ducked under the flaps of the ramen stand, and Tucci walked out of the kitchen. Hey kid. Who's your lady friend? Not really sure myself, but that's why we're here, to eat and get to know each other. Alright, so what can I get you? The usual Naruto? Sounds good. And you miss? A pork ramen. It will up in just a bit. They sat down on the stools after placing their orders. To start off, my name's Naruto Uzumaki, and I recently turned 12. My name's Robin Senna and I turned 13 2 months ago. So why are you so strong if you're only an academy student? I have to look out for myself because I'm an orphan, and make money to eat because the amount the council gives out is pathetic at best. You work and go to the academy? How do you have the energy to do that? I was exhausted after the academy every day. I only work once or twice a month, but the pay's good if you perform well enough, then I buy only the essentials and save the rest of my money for food and for later. I'm an orphan as well, but I lived with a friend of mine's family until I became a genin. Now I'm doing missions and getting paid so I can afford an apartment and to buy food. My friend, Tenten, is a weapon user a year younger than you, and her family runs a weapon shop. Her father was the one who inspired me to take up the sword. Naruto was smiling. Sounds nice. Ayame came out with their orders. Robin jaw dropped when she saw that Naruto's usual was 2 bowls of everything. Thanks Ayame-ne-san. He started to dig into his bowls. Naruto devoured them all by the time Robin finished with her second. How can you eat that much, and more importantly why? I've been on my own since I was 4, for 2 years this was all I could afford to eat. I used to eat as fast as I could to ensure that I would be able to eat, and now it's more of a habit. I eat that much out of habit too, like I said the payments given out are pathetic, so I ate as much as I could while I could since I didn't know when I would eat again. At 6 I started training and become strong enough that I didn't have to worry about being attacked for the little I had, and I found the work I do while hiding from one such person. If you already have a job that pays well, why enter the academy? Oji-san enrolled me so that I would have some kind of education. Wait, if you have family, why do you live alone? Naruto laughed, which confused her more. Sorry, it's just that I call the Hokage Oji-san, because that's how he act when I'm around him. He actually seems happy when I do. Anyways, I don't want to be a ninja, but I have to sit through 4 years of it before I can drop out. If you don't want to be there, why go? I promised Oji-san I would and I don't go back on my word. He looked up and saw the clock. Sorry Robin-san, but I have to get going, I'm working tonight. He pulled out his wallet and paid for both their meals. Alright, but could we get together again, maybe have another match? Should be fun, I'd love to. Come to my apartment when you're free after the academy lets out for the day. I go there before I head out to train, but not next time, okay? Sure, I'll see you later Naruto-san. She and Naruto left heading in different directions. I have to get 2 practice swords, but getting to know Naruto will be well worth it. Iruka and Hayate stood before the smiling Hokage. He really beat your potential apprentices so easily? Yes, but he claims that he's, never used a sword before, but his form, and execution were perfect like he's practiced it for years. He's never shown interest in weapons before, he doesn't even use the kunai and shuriken he carries with him. He told me the reason he has them is for the extra weight. I know Iruka, he prefers taijutsu over everything else. Guy would have a field day if he met Naruto-kun. Sir, I would like, to test Uzumaki to see how adept he, is at kenjutsu. If you will allow it, I would like to face him myself. As long as you don't kill him, I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's his decision. Iruka, tell him of the offer tomorrow after class and tell him that if he accepts to come see me so we can set a date and time. Iruka nodded. You're both dismissed then. They saluted and disappeared in puffs of smoke. The Hokage's smile widened and he pulled out a small orange book, and soon perverted giggling could be heard from outside the office. A shadowed figure moved through the alleyways, constantly checking to see if anyone is following and slips into an old warehouse. Slipping some money to a man. The figure writes on a clipboard and hands a larger amount to another man, writing on a different clipboard. Betting for yourself again, kid? If I bet for the other guy, people will think I threw the fight if I lose, and I'll lose money if I win. True, but you haven't lost in years, come close once or twice, but you still won. So who's the first opponent? A Jonin didn't give his name, but it's pretty hard not to know who he is. Not many people go around spouting off about the power of youth. He's my opponent, huh? Well, things should be interesting to say the least. I may actually lose. This is Guy, the self-proclaimed prideful green beast of Konoha, and resident taijutsu specialist we're talking about here. I've never fought against Goken before, so I don't really know what to expect from the style. Maybe I shouldn't have placed such a large bet. What happened to your "I can beat anyone" attitude, kid? Don't tell me you're scared of him. Scared of him? No, I'm terrified of him. I don't know anyone who's not, but I sure as hell am not scared to fight him. I'm just saying that he may be the biggest challenge I've ever had. Now there's the attitude of the youngest champion we've ever had. Another 2 years and you also have held the title longer than anyone else. What are the odds? The place is full, both ninja and civilians, most favor you in this, but it's close. It's 5 to 1 that you'll win. Damn, that is close if this place is packed. This promises to be fun. The worst that could happen is I lose and have to start at the bottom again. Several of the overhead lights come on over a large open area surrounded by people. Let the fun begin. Naruto walked into the temporary ring to face the green-clad Jonin, who had a toothy smile when he did. Even at such a young age, your youthful spirit must burn brightly for you to have remained champion for such a long time. It's an honor to fight one as youthful as yourself, Uzumaki-san. I'm excited to fight you as well, Guy-san, but please there's no need to be formal, just call me Naruto, or whatever else you prefer. Guy nodded, slid into an offense stance. Naruto looked him over before he did as well. His legs were spread, his left out in front, left arm stretched out to half its length and right near his chest, both bent slightly. The crowd cheered as a buzzer went off, signaling the beginning of the match. Naruto waited for his opponent to make the first move, and he didn't have to wait long as Guy rushed forward. Aiming a round kick at the side of Blonde's head, said Blonde raised his arm to block. He wasn't surprised to hear the sound of metal hitting metal barely audible over the crowd. Waits, huh? Naruto didn't have time to think about this as the guy pressed on with his attack. His fist came flying toward Naruto's face, but he crouched slightly and sidestepped, sending an uppercut into Guy's jaw, followed quickly by a left hook at the ribs. Guy stumbled back a single step, but it was just the space for Naruto to send a flip kick to his jaw again. The force was enough to send Guy into the air. He tucks himself into ball, and when he hits the ground, he rolls into a crouch. An explosion rocked the warehouse and people started running. Several people in black cloaks and masks shot through the crowd and stopped as many as they could. While Naruto was watching them, Guy disappeared, and two people stood 10 feet from him. Each wore a mask like those that had stopped the crowd, but neither wore a cloak, instead donning gray armored vests and dark pants, a sword strapped to each of their backs. He smirked when he saw these two. One was obviously a woman due to certain assets. She had long purple hair and a cat mask, and other had silver gravity-defying hair and a dog mask. Inu-san, Neko-chan. He nodded at each as he spoke. Doing well? Yes, I am Naruto-kun, thank you for asking. The dog-masked man just grunted. Don't tell me you're still angry about the window incident, Inu-san. That was years ago, and besides, you shouldn't have stopped me, he had it coming. Throwing a man out of a second-story window isn't a justifiable punishment for breaking and entering. This is pointless. I've lost count of how many times we've had this argument. Now if you wouldn't mind, I was in the middle of something. He scanned the room and found that they were the only ones still there. Your friends work fast. He turns back to them. I don't mind you guys dropping by, but I prefer you didn't detain clients and future opponents. It's bad for business. There is no business anymore. This is the end of these fights. We've acquired information that the one funding these fights only comes to the title matches, and no one made it out of the building. Naruto laughed. Two things wrong with that. First, no one's ever met the one funding them before. It could be the Hokage himself for all anyone knows, so you'll have a hard time figuring out who they are from all the people you arrested. Second, not everyone was arrested. My opponent was gone by the time your men appeared, so if he got out, no telling how many others did. Besides, what's so bad about these fights? We live in a ninja village for Kami's sake. Most kids my age are learning how to kill, and the clans start even earlier. If OG-san would legalize them, we could use the arena. It would also attract people from other countries to both participate and watch. Either way, Konoha's economy would increase. That was surprisingly intelligent for someone your age, Naruto-kun. Which makes me wonder why you haven't suggested this to Hokage-sama. Knowing him, he would place an age requirement to participate to ensure the safety of those underage, problem being that that would include me, and I rely on the money I win to survive. I'm not saying this to try and make you feel guilty or anything, it's the simple truth, and you asked. So, shall we go to the holding cell that you seem to keep reserved for me, or can I go home? The cat-masked ninja sighed and motioned for him to follow, and the other followed behind Naruto. Naruto sat on the cot of his holding cell, his back to the corner, arms resting on his knees, eyes shut, and his head bent slightly backwards against the wall. He smiled when he heard footsteps coming towards him. When they stopped, he opened his eyes to find the Hokage and a white-cloaked Anbu with an unrecognizable mask. I take it Inu-san and Neko-chan are off duty. Sorry OG-san, seems I missed class today. It's alright Naruto-kun. In fact, I'm surprised you didn't let yourself be taken into custody every time just to get out of it. I made a promise and I do everything I can to keep it. So, are you here to tell me I can go, or that I'm staying here for a while? The Hokage sighed and shook his head. The Anbu stepped forward and unlocked the cell. Naruto got up and walked out of the cell. Thanks Anbu-san. He and the Hokage walked out of the building. OG-san, thanks for bailing me out again. I'll pay you back later. There's no need Naruto-kun. You say that every time, but you should know by now that I still will. I know, but I'd prefer if you didn't. Naruto shrugged. I don't like owing people anything. If I repay them right away, I don't have to worry about it later. Besides, this way I know you won't die with me owing you anything. At your age I won't take that risk. He ended with a smile on his face. I'm not that old. Whatever you say OG-san. Next you'll be telling me that Yondaime didn't kill Kyuubi. The Hokage stopped dead, and Naruto turned to face him. What's up OG-san? Sarutobi forced a small smile. It's nothing, I was just thinking about all the work I have waiting for me back at the tower. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but I really must get back. I'll see you later, alright? Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Later Oji-san. Naruto walked off towards his apartment, leaving the saddened Hokage. I owe you far more than I could ever repay, Naruto. In a puff of smoke, the aged leader was gone. The sight he found waiting for him at his apartment was not one he had expected, at least not so soon. Robin sat on his doorstep, looking slightly irritated, but noticed him quickly. I was beginning to wonder if you were going to show up, and isn't the academy in the other direction? There was a complication at work last night that caused me to miss class. I really hadn't expected you to challenge me so soon. Actually, I still had to go pick up the Bakken from my friend's shop. Her dad wasn't happy that I broke my last one, but when I told him what happened, he found it funny and said he wanted to meet you. I don't think it's a very good idea. There are a lot of people that don't like me, and I prefer to avoid those people. I'm sure they don't, they're the nicest people I know. Come on, please. He winced as she did the one jutsu no one seemed to be able to counter, Koinu Metsuki no Jutsu. Puppy dog eyes technique. Slowly he nods and she starts dragging him by the arm. Damn that jutsu, there has to be a way to be unaffected. Everything has a weakness. All I have to do is find it. She dragged him clear across the village before stopping outside of shop. Its sign read Shinobi Tools and had kunai for eyes and a sword for the L. Boring, I know, but it's a shop. Never been here before. Really? Then where do you get your weapons? I don't. The ones that I normally have never been used. Oji-san got them for me just before I started at the academy. I carry them for the extra weight, not that it matters much. She just shook her head and pushed the door open. They walked up to the counter to find a brunette girl in a pink and red shirt, her hair made into buns. Hey Tenten, your dad around? He's finishing up your order. So, who's this? Naruto, this is my best friend Tenten Masamune. Tenten, this is Naruto Uzumaki. An evil glint appeared in the brunette's brown eyes. So you're the one she wouldn't shut up about. You sure made an impression on her. I think I even saw a dreamy look in her eyes when she was describing you. Robin's face went red and she looked as though she was going to strangle the younger girl when a large man in a dark t-shirt and leather apron walked in. Now, you two, that's no way to act in front of a guest. Through she is right, Robin. Tenten smiled widely while Robin's mouth was agape. But she does the same when she talks about that Hyuga boy in her class. At this they switched expressions. The man chuckled and turned to Naruto. So you're Naruto, it's nice to meet you, kid. It's nice to meet you too, Masamune-san. That makes me sound older than I am, just call me Tachi. Naruto just nodded. Okay then, Robin, your Bakken are finished, but the protective coating still has to dry, it will be an hour at least. You're both welcome to join us for dinner while you wait. Robin nodded. How about you, Naruto? Thanks for the offer, but I don't think I will. Tenten and Robin were shocked, and Tachi looked saddened, but not surprised. Tenten, however, wasn't as understanding as her father. What? Why not? I don't want to intrude. But you wouldn't be, you were asked to come. Besides, I'm sure we'd all like to learn more about you. I mean, you beat the 5 supposed best Kenjutsu users of our generation at the same time. Please. Both Tenten and Robin used it. Damn, that jutsu. He sighed inwardly. They don't seem to be like the others, but it wouldn't be the first time I've been deceived. I'll have to stay alert. I guess I could stay. Anything I was planning on doing can wait till later. Tachi smiled and shook his head as the girls squealed and jumped for joy. What did I just get myself into? Tachi put a sign on the door saying that he would be back in the shop shortly before hanging up his apron and leading him out the back door to their house. Tachi held the door open for the 3 children. Make yourselves at home. I need to go inform my wife of a few extras for dinner. Tachi went off into what Naruto presumed was the kitchen and he sat down on the couch, Tenten and Robin on either side of him, both looking at him with curiosity. Naruto, you said you had never wielded a sword before yesterday, right? He nods. Then how did you beat us so easily? He shrugged. Luck probably. You guys also underestimated me. You weren't the first, and I guarantee you won't be the last to lose because of it. Tenten got that evil glint in her eye again. Do you have a girlfriend? He shook his head. Boyfriend? He started to sputter out incoherent words of denial while the girls were laughing lightly. Sorry, I had to ask. Robin blushed lightly. Naruto, you mind if I ask something personal? Can't be much worse than Tenten's question. When I was at your house yesterday, I saw 2 tattoos on your arms and I was wondering what they meant. Left arm is Akuma and the right is Enzuru. When did you get them? I've had them for as long as I remember, which is about 3 or 4 years old. Tachi came back into the room and sat down in an armchair next to the couch. Dinner should be done soon and my wife's brewing some tea. I hope they're not bombarding you with too many questions. Not nearly as many as Iruka-san did when he first met me. Naruto looked past him and saw a woman, whom he assumed was Tachi's wife, standing with a tray of cups, a look of horror and shock on her face. A sad smile formed on his lips. I'm sorry Tachi-san, I just remembered that I owe Oji-san some money, and it would be rude to keep him waiting. If you'll excuse me. Naruto got up, gave the man a slight bow of the head, and left calmly. Tachi looks over his shoulder and sees his wife, coming to a concussion of what just happened. Hisaki, is everything all right? She forced a smile onto her face. Fine, I just need your help with something in the kitchen. Here's the tea girls, dinner should be ready shortly. She and her husband left the 2 girls in the living room to speak privately. Tachi, I know what you're going to say, and I don't have a problem with him because of that. Then what is it? It's just that he looks so much like a man I met that day. The guy walked through the battlefield like everything was normal. He carried 2 swords, wore a strange outfit, and no hite ate. Why does this bother you so much? When I saw him, I also saw my body laying on the ground and Hyuga standing over his own body. There was a chain that connected me to my body and the Hyuga's was broken. The man hit him on the head with the hilt of one of his swords and the Hyuga disappeared, but he looked almost happy. I thought he was going to do the same to me, but he said I could be saved as long as the chain was connected to my body. He left as the medics found me, but it was like they didn't see him there. At first glance, I could have sworn that the man was sitting there. I was afraid of what the possible reasons were, that I didn't acknowledge the differences until he was already gone. You can't really expect him to be very trusting with the life he's led, but he doesn't seem like he's the type to hold a grudge, so he may give us a second chance, even if it is only because the girls used that evil jutsu to make him. Hisaki smiled slightly. It's the best we can hope for if it gives us a chance to explain what happened tonight. She nods and they finish making dinner. Naruto was walking through the alleyways to the Hokage Tower, not really thinking about where he was going until he saw a familiar face. So this is what you do when you're not taking bets? The man smiled. Yep, and it's got benefits. I get the Icha Icha books for next to nothing. In fact, we just got the latest one in, it not even going to be placed on the shelves for a week. No kidding? The man nodded. You think I could get 2 right now if I pay for 3? Sure. The owner went home for the day anyway, I doubt he'll notice. Naruto pulled out the money and the man handed him 2 books for a box before taking the money. I got word today that the next match won't be for some time. The Anbu's appearance has really scared the clients, so we're shutting down for a bit, at least till the heat dies down. The one funding them apparently has a way to contact everyone, so when they start back up, you'll know about it. Thanks for the books and the info. No problem, you've made me a lot of money, it's the least I could do. Naruto waved as he walked away. Just as he was about to walk out of the alleyway to enter the tower, the dog-masked Anbu landed next to him. Naruto, you know you're too young to have that book. He pointed at the barely concealed orange book in the boy's pocket. Naruto just smirked. I know, but it's not for me. It's a gift. Really, for who? For you. I knew you would catch me, so I thought I'd be nice and buy you the newest edition in the series. The seller said it wouldn't even be put out till next week. He took out the book and handed it to the masked ninja. Just don't tell Neko-chan I gave it to you. I like being on her good side. If the mask weren't there, Naruto would have seen the man's eyes narrow. What's the catch? No catch, think of it as an apology if you want to. Now, I have to go see the Hokage before he leaves for the day. See ya later Inu-san. Naruto ran out into the street and into the tower. The masked man smiled. The kid can't be all that bad, he bought this for me. In a puff of smoke the man was gone. Naruto walked into the Hokage's office, closing the door behind him, where Sarutobi was glaring at the pile of paperwork in front of him. Hey Oji-san, I'm here to pay you back for earlier. Naruto, it's really not necessary. Yeah, I know, but already told you the reason. Besides, I think you'll really like the way I'm repaying you. He pulled an orange book out from inside his weapon pouch. The newest edition that's not in stores yet. How did you get this, Naruto? I know a guy who works at the bookstore and he was happy to sell it to me. Well, you certainly are resourceful, but I'm afraid I already have that edition. My old student Jiraiya is the one who writes them and gives me the newest one free a month before it's released. Well crap, what am I going to do with this then? I could pass it on to Kakashi Hitaki if you want. He already has it, he caught me with one outside the tower and I gave it to him as a gift, or an apology for when I was 8. The old man looked shocked. Oh come on OG-san, how many people do you know with that hairstyle? I've even seen Naoko-chan without her mask, but don't know her name. So what to do with this? You think Iruka-san reads them? He might, you'd have to ask him, but either way, he'll probably faint because you have it. Probably, so he's out. What about that guy with that black bandana and sunglasses? The Hokage looked a little confused. The guy you have watching Konohamaru. Oh Ebisu, same as Iruka-kun. That Hayate guy? The aged Hokage chuckled. Naoko-chan is his girlfriend. Speaking of him, he would like to test your ability with a sword. It's up to you of course, and it's a just proficiency test. And if I'm adept, what then? It's up to you, you could learn Kenjutsu for him, or we can leave it at that. Let me think about it. The old man smiled and nodded. Now about the book, you could just keep it, for when you're older of course. I suppose I could, but it would be a problem if Robin found it. Sarutobi pretended to pout, but his eyes showed amusement. You got yourself a girlfriend and didn't tell me? It's not like that OG-san. I accidentally broke her Bakken during the Kenjutsu demonstration. She wanted to get to know me afterwards and followed me home. Wanted to have a rematch when she got a new Bakken. The Hokage's smile returned. I'm glad you made a friend around your age. I don't know her well enough to really call her a friend. And if she listens to Masamune-san I might not get the chance. The smile faded. What do you mean, what happened? Robin dragged me to her friend's family shop to pick up her new Bakken. Tachi-san asked if we wanted to stay for dinner. Robin and her friend Tenten used the Koinu Metsuki no Jutsu, which I request be made a forbidden jutsu. The Hokage couldn't help but smile. To convince me to accept. At first things were fine, but when Tachi-san's wife brought out tea, she wasn't looking at me with hatred like most people do, but it was like she was afraid of me. I made up an excuse and left. That doesn't seem like Hisaki-san, maybe you were mistaken. I'm not OG-san. I've learned to read even a seasoned shinobi's emotions. Besides, it's not like she was hiding her shock and horror. If that's the case, I believe I can explain. Please, follow me. The Hokage stands and Naruto does the same. Sarutobi leads him down the hall to where the council would meet. He walked around the seats and table to the back of the room where 4 pictures hung on the wall. These are the pictures my fellow Hokages, taken the day they took office. The reason we're here is this one. He pointed at the Yondaime's picture. I'm sure you can see the similarities, it would explain the shock. But not the horror. Well, what were you doing at the time? Talking to Tachi and the girls. The look the old man gave him told him he wanted more. Robin asked about the tattoos on my arms and I told her I didn't remember when I got them, but it was before I was 4. By then Tachi had come back in and asked if they were bombarding me with questions. That could explain the horror, that you were tattooed at such a young age. Maybe. Well, I certainly feel stupid for running out like that. Think they'll give me a second chance? I'm sure they will. They probably know what you thought you saw. The blonde looked shocked. As unfortunate as it is, it's almost impossible for anyone not to know how the villagers act around you. And yet the children never question why. I'm going to get going OG-san. Haven't had anything good to eat since yesterday. Just cause you don't make it or it's not ramen doesn't mean it's not good. Maybe, but I know it's not when I can't tell what it is, or if it was alive. I swear I saw lunch trying to crawl off the tray. The Hokage chuckled. I'll see you later Naruto-kun. Sure, by the way, I left the amount on your desk. The Hokage just shook his head as the blonde left the room. By the time the blonde made it back to his apartment, the sun had set. He removed his weights and collapsed onto his bed. Naruto took his time walking home the next day, his mind running through possible ways to apologize to the Masamune family and Robin for leaving so abruptly. He slowly came to his sense as he heard the sound of something flying towards him. Before his mind could register it, his hand shot out, and in a fluid motion grabbed the object and threw it back towards its origin. He looked in the direction he had thrown it after he heard it impact something wooden. There was a wooden practice shuriken stuck in what he now realized was his apartment door, in the middle of the space between Robin's and Tenten's heads. Both girls were wide-eyed. Tenten looked between the shuriken and Naruto, The blade of the throwing weapon was stuck halfway in the door. Damn, now I'll have to fix my door again. He reached between them and pulled it out with ease. I'm starting to think that I'd be better off with a metal door. He noticed that both girls were still looking at him in shock and sighed. You're more than welcome to come inside, so if you'd be so kind to open the door or get out of the way so I can. That seemed to get their attention because Robin opened the door and went in, followed by Tenten, and then Naruto, who closed the door behind him. Make yourselves at home. Tea and a kettle are in the cupboard next to the stove and you can raid the fridge if you want. Use the bathroom's second door on the left. I'll be in the other one taking a shower. 10 minutes later, the girls were sipping on their tea when he came out, towel draped over his head, a dark green bundle in his hand, wearing a black muscle shirt and baggy black pants. He set the bundle on the table and they heard a groan. What is that? My weights. Figured you came here for a reason and I'd already made you wait while I took a shower, so I'd finish getting dressed out here while we talked. How much do you weigh? If I remember correctly, 120 pounds. Both girls thought the same thing at that moment. That's not that bad. On each limb and another on my chest, so 600 pounds. Both of the girls' jaws hit the floor. Come to think of it, it's getting to be easier to move around again. I'll have to add more soon. He unwrapped the bundle, which turned out to be a shirt, and started to attach the weights. So, what did you come here for? The main reason, to find out why you left all of a sudden last night. What I said was true. I did owe OG-san some money, but I used it as an excuse because I'm not comfortable around new faces or in new places. I mean, I had just met you the day before, Robin, and you introduced me to Tenten and her family. They invite me to dinner at their house. I don't know how to act when it comes to things like that. I told you yesterday that there are a lot of people that don't like me. The problem is I don't know who all does and who doesn't, so I tend to regard everyone with caution. You talked with me at the ramen stand. That was different. I had a Yame-ne-chan and Tuchi Ojii-san there for support. Because of how people feel about me, I've learned to read how people feel, even seasoned ninja, by their eyes. However, I'm human, so I'm bound to make mistakes, and I did so last night. When I saw you, Mom Tenten, I saw shock and horror. I thought that she felt the same way most others do. That's why I left. But when I went to see OG-san, he helped me understand what I actually saw. I spent most of today trying to think of a way to make it up to all of you, or at least apologize. Naruto, it's really not necessary. My parents said they understood why you left, but wouldn't tell us what they meant. Naruto smiled at the two girls. There's one thing that you both need to know about me. I always repay my debts. I haven't figured out how yet, but I will make it up to all of you. A week has passed since the incident at Tenten's house, and Naruto, Robin, and Tenten have all been training together during that time. It normally consisted of kenjutsu sparring and target practice, in which case Naruto practiced taijutsu. Robin and her team had left yesterday on a C-class mission and wasn't expected back for another week. Now Naruto found himself extremely bored as he wandered through the village. Oddly enough, he found himself back at the academy, where he saw 3 of his classmates were laughing near the side of the building. At first he planned to ignore them and leave, but then the sound of someone crying reached his ears. He calmly walked over to them and saw a boy that appeared to be a little younger than himself crouching on the ground, his hands over his ears and tears running down his face. It was then that he heard what the other 3 were saying. Loser, how can you be a ninja if you can't even mold chakra? Another chipped in. Yeah, you should just give up and save yourself the embarrassment. Let's show him how useless it is for a weakling like him to try to be a shinobi. The boy cocked his arm back for his swing, but Naruto grabbed it and twisted the arm behind the kid's back. If you want to fight, I'll gladly give it to you. The boys looked at Naruto in fear. No, we were just leaving. Come on guys. The 3 of them left and Naruto crouched down by the younger boy. Hey, you alright? The red puffy-eyed boy nodded. That's good. What's your name? I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Rock Lee. Why were they so scared of you? Unfortunately, those 3 idiots are in my class, and whenever we do anything physical, aside from weapons, I run everyone into the ground. Lee, is what they said true, that you can't mold chakra? Lee nodded. The doctor said that my chakra coils are only developed enough to keep me alive. My body doesn't even produce enough chakra to use a bunshin. Then why become a ninja? You could do so many other things. It's my dream. All I've ever wanted is to be a shinobi. Even if I can only use taijutsu, I will become one. Naruto smiled at the younger boy. It's going to be a hard path without Jutsu Lee, but I think I know someone who can help you. Lee's face lightened up. Really? Who? There's a Jonin who specializes in taijutsu. I fought him not too long ago. Our match was interrupted, but I could tell he was very good. Now I don't know if he has a genin team or not, so he may not be able to train you in anything but the basics of his style. If that's the case, I can help with conditioning and as a sparring partner. Not that I'm complaining, Naruto, but why are you so readily helping me, after all we just met? I don't like to see people do what those three were doing to you. By helping you I can ensure that it won't happen to you again, because you'll be able to show them that they were wrong. That even without chakra, you can be a damn good shinobi, even though they should already know that from me. You can't use chakra either? I can, but I don't. I don't want to be a shinobi. In fact, if it were possible, I would trade you chakra coils. Now let's get going to the Hokage's office. He should know where Gaia is. For 15 minutes, the walk was a quiet one before Lee broke it. Naruto, if you're a taijutsu user, couldn't you teach me your style? I don't really have a style. I'm what most people call a brawler, meaning I change how I fight to fit the situation. Gai's on the other hand seems to be a mainly offensive one that uses massive amounts of physical strength and speed. They reached the office and Sandame's secretary let them in, a bit reluctantly though, and they sat across from the Hokage. Oh, hello Naruto-kun, to what do I owe the pleasure? I was hoping you could point me in the direction of a Jonin named Gai. The Hokage's face paled and his ever-present pipe fell from his mouth. Dear Kami, do I even want to tell him? Might I ask why? I was hoping he would be willing to train my new friend Lee in taijutsu. The Hokage looked over at the black-haired boy then back at Naruto. Couldn't you train him? I asked him the same thing, but he said that since he doesn't have a style he couldn't. The Hokage looked a little confused by this, so Naruto decided to elaborate. Since I don't use a style, I don't know how to teach anyone to fight like I do. The old man sighed. I know I'm going to regret this. Oh, if only he knew. Alright, he should be at training ground 15 in about 10 minutes unless he actually able to get Kakashi to accept one of his challenges. If that's the case, it could be anywhere from an hour till this time tomorrow before he gets there. Naruto waves with a smile. Thanks OG-san. Lee, we should get going if we want to get there on time. Lee nods and follows Naruto out the door. While leaping from roof to roof, Naruto decided that he should warn his new friend about what he was getting into. Hey Lee, I want to tell you that Guy is a very eccentric person. He will talk or shout about the flames of youth, which I think is something along the lines of a fighter's spirit. Anyway, he wears weights, so chances are he'll have you wear them too, and if he has you do the same training as what I've heard he does, well, let's just say that it sounds like it's on the border of insanity, but he's all the stronger because of it. Lee paled. Don't worry through, I doubt he'll start you off at the same level he's at. You seem pretty confident that he'd train me. I'm almost positive he would jump at the chance to train anyone who asks him. They landed in the training ground with a few minutes to spare, so Lee went over and sat beneath a nearby tree while Naruto stood in the middle of the clearing, with his eyes closed. Naruto smirked when he heard the shifting of the air, but his eyes remained closed. Dynamic entry. Guy came flying at him with a kick to the left side of the head, but Naruto's arms shot up and grabbed his leg, one on each side. Twisting his body to the left, he pulled Guy and with a shift of his shoulders, flipped Guy onto his back before his eyes reopened. That was a most youthful counter, Naruto-kun. You do your title honor. So tell me, my youthful young friend, have you come here to challenge me to a rematch since we were unable to finish our match? I would love to finish our match, but unfortunately that's not why I'm here. He motioned for Lee to come over. Guy, this is my new friend Lee. I met him today when some very unyouthful people were making fun of him for not being able to mold chakra. I was hoping that you, in your youthfulness, would train him in taijutsu so he can fulfill his dream of being a shinobi. He had to keep himself from wincing throughout the whole speech, but he was positive that it worked, as Guy had waterfalls of tears going down his face. The thing he found slightly disturbing was that Lee did too. They both stood in front of Naruto, their eyes blocked from view by their arms. Naruto, you're such a great friend. You barely even know me, and you're doing this for me. I can never thank you enough. To help a complete stranger like this, Naruto-kun, your flames of youth burn even brighter than mine. You must tell us, how do you get them to burn so brightly? Training really hard and fighting strong opponent? Both of them blink wide-eyed before large smiles erupted on their faces. Yosh, we must work harder to follow Naruto-kun's example. Naruto felt the need to gouge his eyes out when they started to hug and shout each other's names. Right, I'll just leave you two alone so you can get started then. Nonsense Naruto-kun, you should stay and we can train our youthfulness together. Boy, as tempting as that sounds, I'm afraid I can't. You see, OG-san wanted me to come by and help him with his paperwork. So as much as I'd like to, I can't break my promise, but maybe some other time. I understand Naruto, to be youthful you must keep your word, right Guy-sensei? Right you are Lee. Now Lee, the first thing we must do before we start your training is get you the proper gear. Guy and Lee walked off towards the market while Naruto made a mad dash to the Hokage's office thinking only one thing, what have I done? Better question, what have I done? I don't know what compelled me to write that, but I hope to never have to again. Naruto made it there in record time, so fast in fact that the Sandaime could have sworn he used Hirishin. He glared a moment later. Naruto, do you have any idea what Guy's done to Lee? No, but I can venture a guess. Weights on the legs at a high amount and a boulder strapped to his back while running around Konoha? The Hokage blinked a few times before going back to glaring. Close, but no. He turned him into a clone, jumpsuit, haircut, and all. How was that close? They're running around Konoha and he gave him some weights, about 50 pounds, Sarutobi sighed. I knew I shouldn't have told you where to find him. Then it's your fault. You could have just stopped it right there. Trying to blame this on me. I'm disappointed OG-san. Sarutobi's sweat dropped as he turned back to the crystal ball and his face paled. Naruto, you'd better hope that whoever you know at the bookstore doesn't get fired or decide to quit. They found Kakashi. Naruto's face lost all color. Any chance you'll cover for me and say I was here all day? The Hokage shook his head and Naruto hung his head in defeat. There was a pop and a small cloud of smoke appeared in front of the desk. Before the smoke could clear, Naruto was behind the Hokage's chair, poking his head around the side. As he feared, it was Kakashi. Sir, Guy somehow has a clone and they running around the village claiming. He noticed Naruto hiding behind the Hokage. Naruto, please tell me they said wasn't true. What did they say? That you were the one who brought them together. First, that doesn't sound right. It makes it sound like they're a couple, and second, I could tell you that, but it would be a lie. In the blink of an eye, Kakashi was beside Naruto, shaking him like a rag doll. Why would you do that? Do you have any idea what you've done? Sarutobi pulled them apart. Now Kakashi, there's no reason to overreact on him. The only way damage will have been done is if one of them gets a team that can stand them, or one of them somehow has a family. But sir, damage has been done, people are traumatized. Did they hug and start calling each other's names? Kakashi nodded and Naruto shuddered. And there was a genjutsu of a sunset on an ocean cliff with waves. I tried to use the Sharingan to dispel it, but it didn't work. Now I have the image burned into my mind forever. There were tears falling down the normally apathetic ninja's face. Naruto walked over to him and patted him on the back. There, I had to witness it too, and even if it's not burned into my mind, it will haunt me for all time. I'm sorry, but I had to do it. For the next week, Naruto spent as little time as he could in the populated area of the village, meaning only going to the academy and his apartment if it was raining. Otherwise he trained in his isolated clearing. Naruto was lying on one of the thicker high branches of the large oak in the middle of the clearing, staring up at the stars, his hands wrapped with blood seeping through at the knuckles. A rustling below him brought his mind away from the sky. Getting up, he turned and hopped down from branch to branch to reach the ground. Glancing around, he was unable to find the source of the noise, until he heard something cutting through the air at a high speed, coming towards him on the right. His calm demeanor never wavered, as the object grew closer. Thwack! Naruto's hand had shot up and grabbed hold of the object, a bakken. I thought you were due back tomorrow. He released the bakken and turned to face the owner, Robin, who had a smile on her face. We finished the job earlier than expected. Nice place by the way, pretty hard to find though. Thus its appeal. How'd you find out about this place? The Hokage told me. I asked if he knew where you were cause I wanted to tell you something, and he said if you weren't at your apartment, or the ramen stand, you'd be here. The smile on her face widened further. Naruto, you'll never guess what. I have a Kekkei Genkai, I can wield fire. No offense or anything, Robin, but so can a lot of other ninja. It's called Kaden. You don't believe me? Fine, I'll show you. He saw flames dance in her emerald eyes just before she turned, and then fire burst into life in mid-air not 5 feet from them. Ha, told you. My sensei didn't know if it'd be considered a dujutsu or not, but the Hokage seemed surprised I had one. Apparently he didn't know either of my parents had a Kekkei Genkei. Of course he also said it may have been a dormant one that reappeared in me. I can think of a few reasons they would keep something like a Kekkei Genkei secret. The first being if it was your two sans, the Clan Restoration Act, which means he would have to take multiple wives to increase their numbers, most being of other clans with a similar one, like the Hyuga and Uchiha for a dujutsu to try to combine them. If it was your Ka sans though, it's the same reason you should have kept it secret, unless you're already married, betrothed, or engaged. The same act will take you off of active duty and they'll marry you off to have as many children as possible. Again, normally to a clan member with a similar ability. The only way I can think of is if you tell Oji-san that you don't want a clan, which wouldn't be possible anyway unless your husband took your name, in which case you wouldn't get a clan compound or a seat on the council. But even then, once the Uchiha becomes of age, if you're not married or engaged like I said, the council could arrange a marriage between you and him stating that it's your duty to help rebuild the clan, which would also take you off active duty and you won't be able to leave the village at all. They keep you under guard so nothing happens to you, meaning that they're there to make sure you can't escape the village to avoid the marriage. He paused to let the information sink in. Luckily for you, you have 3 years on the Uchiha, so you could possibly be engaged, or already married to someone by the time they could arrange the marriage. Robin's smile had long since disappeared. That's bullshit. How the hell can they force people into marriages, and why the hell is there a law like that? The Shodem made it because when some of the clans joined during the creation on Konoha, their numbers were surprisingly low, the Uchiha included. In fact, there were only 2 brothers, both took 5 wives and the clan inbred, as did the Hyuga, trying to make themselves stronger by keeping the blood pure with selective breeding. He snorted. Anyway, the news of you have a Kekkei Genkei is going to reach the council sooner or later. If Oji-san doesn't tell them, your teammates or sensei will say something to someone. What should I do? I don't want to be forced into some loveless marriage by the council. My advice, you have about 5 years before they can force you to marry the Uchiha, so first talk to Oji-san to make it clear you don't want to rebuild your clan. Then either start looking for possible husbands, or start thinking of a way to leave the village and fake your own death so they won't keep looking for you. You sure know how to turn a person good mood sour. So what about you? I don't have a Kekkei Genkei that I know of. I have a few abilities no one else has to the same extent, but there's no way to prove it's a bloodline trait, or that it will be passed on if I have kids. There is a clan in Konoha that has a hidden healing ability, but theirs is the subconscious use of medical chakra. I have far too much chakra and nowhere near enough control to make medical chakra. You said abilities, what are the others? It's not something I like to talk about. Suffice to say that if people knew about it, I'd be experimented on to try and reproduce the effects. Alright, so anything interesting happened while I was gone? Well, it wasn't while you were gone, but that Hayate guy that you were trying to become apprenticed to, asked Oji-san if he could test my proficiency in Kenjutsu and he left it up to me. So are you going to do it? He shrugged. Not sure, I've never put much stock in weapons of any kind, yet the man rumored to be on par with any one of the Kiri no Shinobi-gatana Nananan Shu, is interested in me, or rather my skills with a sword. I think you should do it, even if you don't decide to learn under him. Well, I'd better get going if I want to see the Hokage before he leaves for the night. I'll come with you. I have a few things to talk to Oji-san about anyway. Hayate stood across from the Sandame in his office. Has he given you an answer yet? No, but I imagine I will get one soon. He's never been one to make people wait unnecessarily. Just then Naruto and Robin walked into the office. Speak of the devil. Sarutobi cringed inwardly. Bad choice of words. Ah, Naruto, we were just talking about you. I'm sure you both remember Hayate Gecko. He came to see if you were going to take his test or not. Actually, that part of the reason why I'm here, Oji-san. He turned to Hayate. I'll take your test, but if you'd allow it, may I use 2 Bakken instead of 1? Hayate raised an eyebrow. An unusual request. Cough. May I ask why? Naruto shrugged. It just doesn't feel right only having 1. The only way I can think of to explain it is that I'm missing a part of my arm. The sickly swordsman smiled. Alright, Hokage-sama, I would like to hold it in the arena in a week if you'd allow it. The Hokage looked at the blonde. Is that acceptable, Naruto? Said blonde nodded. Alright, then the test will take place in a week at noon. Hayate bowed to the Hokage. Thank you for your time, Hokage-sama. The sickly Jonin turned around and left the office. The aged Hokage turned his full attention to the two. I take it there's something else you needed. Robin stepped up to the desk with a nervous expression on her face. Sir, about the Kekkei Genkai that's appeared in me, I don't want to start a clan. The Hokage's eyes traveled from her to Naruto. You told her about the Shodem's Clan Restoration Act 1C. Which you should have done to begin with, Oji-san. Which just goes to show you weren't paying attention when I told you about it. If you had, you would have known that the Naidame amended it so that it didn't apply to women, and that all entering into the marriage must do so willingly. So instead of a just plain, do it, it's, do it or else, or yeah, that's so much better. They probably won't have too much trouble finding willing partners for the Uchiha, unless they're looking for Dujutsu carriers. In which case the Hyuga will outright refuse because of their rivalry with the Uchiha. After that, Robin would be a likely choice because she controls fire, something the Uchiha clan has always prided themselves on. While I agree with your assessment, and the possibility of the council threatening to get certain people into arranged marriages, you once again didn't listen to what I said. All entering the marriage must do so willingly, and Sasuke has informed the entire council that when he rebuilds his clan, that he does not wish to marry any who have a Kekkei Genkai in order to keep the Sharingan pure. Naruto snorted and the Sandaime smiled slightly. Most of the clan heads reacted the same way. He then let out a tired sigh. Now Naruto, as I'm sure you are aware, I have watched your training sessions from time to time and I'm curious about what you talked to Senna-san about tonight as I've never seen them. Yes, I am aware, but I know that isn't why you looked in on it tonight, Oji-san. As Naruto suspected, the old man blushed a bit. And the reason you've never seen them is because I don't use them during training. One I will not tell you about and the other, well, it's better if I show you, but please put up a sound barrier anyway. The Sandaime face became serious and he flashed through several hand seals before his chakra enveloped the room. He nodded and Naruto held out his right hand. He clenched his hand as he built up chakra, and then he quickly opened his hand and the sight amazed and scared the Hokage. Floating over Naruto's open hand were 9, 2.5-inch balls of blue-green fire, 8 in a circle around the 9th. As Sarutobi opened his mouth to speak, 8 of them shot off in various directions. They hit his lamp, his bookshelf, just below the ceiling over one of the windows, his pipe, the Shodeme's picture, the overhead vent, and the 2 corners that were behind his desk. The ones that hit the corners became pillars of the same flames, and nothing they touched burned. You've been bugged, Oji-san. 6 of those hit communication devices that were transmitting, and the 2 pillars are what I assumed to be Anbu. The Sandaime motioned and within each of the pillars appeared an Anbu. One he recognized as Neko-chan and the other was the one who had been with the Hokage when he was released from the cell. The pillar around Neko became a ball again and flew into Naruto's hand. What about Kuma? Why didn't you release him as well? Do you trust him completely, Oji-san? More than I do most. Naruto nodded and the same happened as the first pillar. Now Naruto, would you care to explain what that just was? From what I've read, it's commonly called either Saint Elmo's fire or Kitsune Bai. From what I've experienced of it, it can burn without fuel, on and in water, can burn through steel, doesn't produce smoke even when feeding on wood or another fuel, and as long as I don't lose focus, it will only burn what I want it to. He turned to the 2 Anbu. Those pillars weren't just barriers, they were solid flame. What did you both feel? It was almost cold. It was Kuma who answered and Neko nodded in agreement. That's how it usually is, cool to the touch, but they actually put off heat. They also screw with electrical devices. Naruto, how did you create these? This is how all my Kaden jutsu turn out. I just found an easier way to bring them out instead of having a chill come up from my lungs. The other 6 fireballs were back to hovering over his hand in the same formation. The first time I used them, I was startled and lost control of the jutsu and it exploded in my face, nearly sent my training area up in flames, but didn't even singe my clothes. The 9 balls came together and formed one that was palm-sized. He quickly closed his fist and the flames were gone. Oji-san, I don't want anyone outside this room to know about this. The last thing I need or want is the council breathing down my neck to be tested to see if it's a Kekkei Genkai. Well, that's all I came here for. See you later, Oji-san, Neko-chan, Kuma-san. Naruto turned to leave and Robin did so as well after bowing to the Hokage. One moment, Naruto, there is something that I wish to speak to you about. Senna-san, would you kindly wait outside? This should only take a moment. Robin left the room and the Sandaime reapplied the sound barrier while Naruto looked at him curiously. I thought it best to not have her present, as what I have to say concerns your fights. Naruto nods approvingly, but stays quiet. Naruto, I believe I have figured out who is funding the street fights. While I do not have enough proof to confirm my suspicions, if I am right, I want you to be careful. This man is extremely dangerous and should he approach you, he will not take no for an answer. He will use force to get his way or he will kill you. If you're right, who is this guy and what would he want from me? I believe one who is funding them to be Councilman Danzo, and I believe he is recruiting for his special unit of Enbu called Root, a group that only follows his command. However, Yondaime had ordered Root to be disbanded when he took office to make up for the losses in the war, but I've gotten reports of their movements, but nothing more than circumstantial evidence. I believe his motive for funding these fights is so he can recruit the strongest of the fighters for Root. He'll have one hell of a time forcing me to join, and an even harder time trying to kill me. Naruto-kun, he won't restrict his men to only taijutsu, he'll throw everything he has at you if you don't go willingly. Naruto smiled as he looked at her. Thanks for the concern, Neko-chan, but just because I don't use ninjutsu, doesn't mean I can't. I'll be careful and should he or his men come after me, I'll try to bring a few to you, Oji-san. Have a nice night, you three. Naruto turned and walked out the door. Kuma turned to Sarutobi. Sir, should we have a few Anbu follow him? Sarutobi shook his head. No, he always knows when someone is following him, and if someone could bug my office, it's likely they've bugged Anbu HQ as well. Neko was staring at the door Naruto had left through. His reaction to this was strange, sir. It seemed as though he's hoping Danzo comes after him, like it's just another one of his fights. Sarutobi took a puff from his pipe. That very well may be the case. From what he has told me of his matches, since he's become the champion, he's only come close to losing a few times, but even then he had yet to remove the weights he constantly wears. If he took them off, he might be able to keep up with Guy in a race, if not beat him. Speed is all well and good, but against the large number Danzo is sure to send after him, it won't be enough, sir. He should have round-the-clock Anbu guard. A lazy voice came from over by the window. Didn't Hokage-sama already tell you that wouldn't work? The two Anbu turned to see Inu leaning against the wall with his new orange book in hand. Naruto is a unique individual. From personal experience, he knows when someone is following him, and has reflexes that should only come with years of shinobi experience. And from what I've heard of his fights, he's a taijutsu genius, being able to adapt to and dissect any fighting style in moments. Apparently his last opponent was Guy, and they seemed evenly matched before we interrupted. Of course they're just rumors. Meanwhile, the Sandaime was smiling at the sight of the book. So he really did give it to you. Have you gotten to chapter 5? Yes, and didn't you just love the end of chapter 8? I have to thank him for this more than enough to make up for that incident 2 weeks ago. I wonder if he'd get me the next one too. They both felt the massive killing intent wash over them that had Kuma cowering even though it wasn't focused on him. When Naruto came out of the Hokage's office, he found Robin sitting there. I'm surprised you're still here. Why's that? Naruto smiled. You just don't seem the type of girl who'd want to be walked home. Despite the frown on her face, Robin couldn't stop the blush that crept its way onto her cheeks. Who said I wanted to be walked home? Nobody, but you chose to stay when you could have left. I really don't mind walking with you. It's only a little ways out of the way to my apartment. How do you know where I live? Are you stalking me or something? Naruto's face turned to pure horror. What? No, remember that one day when we sparred for almost an hour straight? Yeah, when we were done we went and rested against a tree, but after that I don't remember anything. That's because you fell asleep. Tenten and I couldn't get you to wake up, so I carried you while she took me to your place. Robin laughed nervously. Sorry, can't really blame you. I'd be thinking the same if, say, someone was sitting in my living room when I got out of the shower. She pouted and he couldn't help but smile. Sorry, couldn't resist. So, shall we get going? She nodded, and as they turned to leave they both felt a massive killing intent and heard a scream for mercy. Robin turned to Naruto, who was fine, as though it were an everyday thing for him. What was that? Somebody, probably Inu-san or Oji-san, was talking about an Icha-Icha book around Neko-chan. Anyway, we should get going. I don't know about you, but I have to be up in the morning. Walking through the shopping district, many could glance at the pair and assume they were a couple, not because they were holding on to each other, but because of how at ease they were around each other. Once they entered the living district, the lights and sounds of people all but died off, and it was also then that Naruto spoke. Hey Robin, you have anything planned for dinner tomorrow? Not really. Why? I thought of a way to repay Tenten's family and I want you to be there. What do you have planned? Well, since I skipped out on dinner, I decided I'd make dinner for them. Do you even know how to cook? Naruto just started laughing and had to wipe a tear away from his eye as he clammed down. You haven't lived till you've tried my cooking. If you come tomorrow, you'll see what I mean. Fine, but when it's not worth the hype, I'm so rubbing it in your face. And this time tomorrow, I'll be accepting your apology for doubting my awesome cooking skills. They walked in the rest of the way to Robin's apartment in silence, each with a smile on their face and thinking they had just won an easy bet. Naruto stopped just outside Robin's apartment building. I hope to see you tomorrow. I'm going to see if Hisaki-san and Tachi-san will let me use their kitchen since mine's not really meant for more than 2 people. I'll be there. Good night Naruto. Good night Robin. He waited till she went into the building before continuing towards his own apartment. After taking a shower, he fell onto his bed face first. After the academy was let out for the day, Naruto made his way through the market, grabbing the ingredients for the meal he planned to prepare that night, sealing the food into a scroll for easier carrying. He then started towards Tenten's house. When he walked into the shop, Tenten was just walking in from the back door while Tachi was standing behind the counter. The large man smiled when he saw Naruto. Hello Naruto. I'm sorry but Tenten's helping me out with the shop today, so she can't go train with you and Robin. Actually, that's not why I'm here. I was hoping to talk to you and Hisaki-san about something. The older man looked confused, but agreed. Ah, sure, I think she got back from shopping just a few minutes ago. Tenten, I'll be back in a few minutes. Naruto quietly followed Tachi to the house. Hisaki, you home? Just a second, I'm putting the last of the groceries away. They heard a bit of rustling and then footsteps. She gasped when she saw Naruto standing there, but her shocked expression quickly turned to a smile. It's nice to see you again Naruto. Tachi wore a sad smile. He wants to talk to us about something. He motioned for Naruto to talk. I'm sure you both know why I left so quickly the last time I was here. Both of their expression turned grim. And I want to say that I'm sorry for assuming without giving the both of you a chance. I would like to make it up to your family, as well as Robin. Hisaki smiled at the blonde. There's no need for you to do that Naruto. It was Naruto's turn to smile. Oji-san says basically the same thing now and then, but it's never stopped me before. We won't accept money from you Naruto. I didn't expect you to, and since I ran out on dinner, I'm going to make you dinner, and Robin should be over before long. Mind if I use your kitchen? Tachi looked scared. Are you good at cooking? Naruto laughed. That's like asking if Jiraiya of the Sannin is only slightly perverted. Tachi smiled. Well then, I'm sure it'll be delicious. I'd better get back to the shop before Tenten starts getting upset. As he left, Naruto and Hisaki went into the kitchen. You want some help Naruto? Thanks for the offer, but no, I have all the help I could ever need. He made a cross-hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 7 Narutos now stood in the kitchen. While the real one was unrolling the scroll of food, 6 were looking for the right cooking equipment, while the 7th started making tea. Hisaki just stared blankly while this was happening. Naruto, how did you learn that jutsu? Oji-san gave me a scroll when I started the academy. He told me that because I had been training harshly since I was 6, that I had bigger chakra reserves than most my age and wouldn't be able to use the regular Bunshin. I told him I didn't really care because I didn't and still don't want to be a shinobi, but I learned it anyway to get him off my case. I have to say I'm glad I did. It cuts prep time down to almost nothing since I don't have to run around getting everything ready. What's the max number you've made? 10, but only because I haven't tried for higher. The scroll said my chakra would be split evenly unless I wanted it otherwise, but if I didn't know that, I'd swear I made regular Bunshin. The Naruto that made tea set a cup in front of her and dispelled. I'll never get used to the knowledge influx though. Just one gives me a headache, that's why I don't try for more than 10 at a time. They heard the front door open, along with Robin and Tenten talking. Hisaki walked over to the stove and grabbed the tea kettle along with 3 cups. Since you have your hands full, I'll take the tea out to them. Thanks, it shouldn't take too much longer. Naruto turned back to find almost every clone's hand covered in blue fire while holding onto a pan. Smiling, he turned his attention back to what he was doing. 20 minutes later, 6 Narutos walked out of the kitchen, one with plates and chopsticks, another with a platter, 2 with a medium-lidded pot each, and 2 more had 5 larger glasses and a gallon of milk between them. After laying everything out on the table, 5 of them disappeared with a pop and a small amount of smoke, and he went to get the others. Robin gave him a questioning look. Done already? What, did you make ramen or something? Naruto smirked. You'll just have to see for yourself. Now let's eat before it gets cold. When Naruto sat down, Robin and Tenten sat on either side of him while Tachi and Hisaki sat across from them. On the table were a platter of barbecue pork, a pot of chicken teriyaki, and another pot of rice with enough of everything to feed 10 people. It looks delicious, Naruto. With a soft-spoken, "Itadakimasu," they began to eat, Naruto forcing himself to eat in a sedate manner, but he couldn't keep the smirk off his face when he saw that after the first bite, everyone else's pace quickened. It wasn't long before all of the food was gone and Naruto had a few clones in the kitchen taking care of the dishes, while they sat out in the living room with another pot of tea. Tenten looked curiously between an upset Robin and a smirking Naruto who kept sending sidelong glances at the redhead. Say it, Robin sighed. Fine, she spoke again in a mocking tone. I'm sorry I doubted your cooking abilities. Awesome cooking abilities. Robin rolled her eyes at the blonde while Tenten giggled. It wasn't long after that they called it a night, with Naruto walking Robin home again before heading home himself. The morning after he accepted the match with Hayate, Naruto went and commissioned Tachi to make 2 bakken for him. After a short explanation, and Tachi shaking his head and laughing at it all, he was informed they'd be done by the next day. The following day, Naruto sent a cage bunshin to the academy in his place while he went to his training grounds, not worried about anyone noticing because it had been a long time since anyone in his class could landed a blow on him, and most didn't even want to try. He did this to both get accustomed to his new bakken and using them at the same time, which he found difficult to do as when he tried to move they'd collide with each other. The week continued on like this till the day finally came. Naruto wore his normal attire save for the shirt that usually went over his weights and a dark gray obi having been added to hold his bakken. When he opened his door, 2 things immediately grabbed his attention. The first was that Robin, Tenten and her family stood outside his door, and the second was that the sky was covered in darkened clouds with flashes of lightning and light booms of thunder. I take it you're all coming to watch. It's open to anyone who wants to watch, but not many people should show since they didn't go out of their way to inform anyone. It didn't take them long to reach the arena, and when they did, Naruto entered through the tunnel to the arena floor while the others made their way to the stands. Naruto found Hayate and Neko standing in the middle of the arena and made his way over there, discreetly checking out his surroundings. The area was pretty open, except for a small section of trees along the wall on one side. Walking up to the pair, Neko held out her hands to both of them. This is more a formality than anything else, because I know neither of you would do anything to cheat, but hand me you bakken for inspection. Hayate pulled his off his back and Naruto took them from the obi. Neko's hand glowed blue as she ran it down the length of each wooden blade. Satisfied, she handed them back and they replaced them, both of Naruto's going on his left side. Alright, here's the rules, the only strikes allowed to hit are slices, and even then none to the neck. Those and stabs are to be stopped before contact. Jutsu are allowed, but only those that are support techniques like bunshin. I don't want to see any fireballs. Naruto couldn't be sure because of the mask, but he felt that her eyes were on him when she said that last part. The winner is determined when one of you are in a situation you can't get out of, a strike to an instantly lethal spot, surrender, or unconsciousness. Are you both clear on the rules? Both nodded and moved away from each other. Then begin. Neko disappeared from the battle area with a puff of smoke as both drew their bakken, though Naruto only brought one out in his right hand. He stood there feet about a foot apart, hands at his sides with the bakken's point nearly touching the ground. Hayate on the other hand held his out in front of him with both hands, his feet also about a foot apart, but his left leg was behind him a little bit with his right slightly out in front of him. A thunderous boom went off above them and both shot forward. Hayate brought his sword down at an angle towards the crook of the neck on the left side. But Naruto brought his hand up to his left shoulder, the back of his blade being at a 45-degree angle with his forearm. He then used his left hand to pull his other bakken out enough to hit Hayate in the gut with the pommel, allowing him to push Hayate's blade away with his right. The Jonin jumped backwards, putting space between them as Naruto put his second bakken back under the obi. Why carry a second sword if you don't intend to use it? The added weight would only slow you down. Naruto saw Hayate make a hand sign he was familiar with and brought up his guard. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Smoke shrouded Hayate and from it 4 of the Jonin came. They surrounded the blonde and moved in to strike. But said blonde jumped into the air, glancing down only to see each of them get struck by another's sword and disappear in a puff of smoke. Mikazuki no Mai. Naruto looked up to find the Jonin in front of him swinging in the same manner as he had in the beginning of the match. Unable to block in the same manner as before, he pulled the other bakken in a reverse grip and brought it to bear. He saw Hayate's smirk and sensed the movement of air behind him. In seconds, he had his hand behind his back and his bakken between it and another Hayate's blade. He shoved both Hayate's blades aside and used the momentum to spin, his outstretched blades striking both in the ribs and turning them to smoke. As Naruto landed, he sheathed his left bakken under his obi. Careful not to move his head, he started to scan the area for his opponent, but hearing the air being cut at high speed, he waited till the last possible second before acting. He turned his head to the side, allowing the blade to pass over it, for he saw it push aside some hair, and as it passed he spun on his heel, swing his own sword towards the Jonin's thigh. Though he missed, it put some distance between them and Naruto was able to turn and face his opponent. It was then that the rain started to fall. It started off as a light drizzle, but quickly became a downpour. Neither combatant seemed fazed by this development in the slightest. They both charged forward again, their blades locked together with so much force Naruto had to hold on with both hands. Hayate however didn't sit idle as he pushed Naruto's blade aside and sent a round kick to the blonde's head, knocking him to the ground several feet away. The Jonin considered going after him for a moment, but decided against it as the blonde rose to his feet within seconds of falling. The blonde was breathing heavily when he rose to his feet, and though Hayate didn't find it strange, several people in the stands did, as the blonde was well known for his stamina, though a few knew the cause for his exhaustion. One such person was a man with long black hair and pale, pupil-less eyes, wear a long-sleeved black training kimono over a white kasode with a black obi holding it closed. The veins around his eyes were bulged out. They were both using chakra to increase that last blow, though the boy seemed to be using much more than necessary. Through his eyes, Hayate's arms and blade had been coated in a blue light, while Naruto's seemed to be surrounded by blue fire. Not Kitsune Bai. Down in the arena, neither combatant had moved, even as flashes of lightning became more frequent and grew steadily closer. Hayate looked at Naruto standing there and smiled inwardly. He's done well to last this long, especially against my Mikazuki no Mai, but it looks like he's on his last leg. He raised his sword and positioned it so its pommel was by his ear. The blade was facing the sky, and the sword was perpendicular to the ground. As he was about to charge though, something extraordinary happened. 3 bolts of lightning struck the stationary blonde simultaneously. The light made everyone shield their eyes, and when the light died down, instead of seeing a fried blonde, Naruto stood there as though it never happened, as electricity jumped between any 2 places of his body that were close together. His breathing had also returned to normal, and the pale-eyed man was surprised to find that the boy's chakra had completely returned to him, maybe even more so. Hayate, who was also shocked at what he had seen, only recovered when he realized that Naruto was charging him, bakken held high and slightly behind him in his right hand. Changing his own grip so the blade was held firmly in his right hand, the blade pointed down, he gripped Naruto's wrist in his open hand and drove his bakken towards the blonde's heart, stopping it before it touched. Taking in the situation, the Jonin smiled. A draw. Naruto's second bakken was held in a reverse grip, its point resting against his chest over his own heart. Had I gone through with the blow, I would have died as well. He let go of Naruto's wrist and took a step back, lowering his Bakken while Naruto did the same. Your innate skills in Kenjutsu, are quite impressive. With training you could, become an extraordinary swordsman. Perhaps, but in order to be your apprentice, I would first need to become a shinobi of the village, something I don't intend to do, or the council will never approve of it. And while I must decline your offer, I recommend that you re-evaluate the 5 you had considered before meeting me, as I'm positive that at least a few of them will have worked hard to improve their skills after their defeat. I'll consider it. The two bowed to each other before both left the battle area. Naruto left the arena entirely, while Hayate went up into the stands using Shunshin. He appeared before the Hokage, Inu, Neko, and the clan heads of 7 of the 8 remaining great ninja clans, the Hokage being the 8th, and bowed. A dark-haired man with a few small scars on his face sat slumped in his seat between a large red-headed man and a tall, skinny, long-haired blonde man. The blonde was smiling as he spoke. "Gaki's got talent, able to fight our top swordsman to a draw." The same pale-eyed man grunted. "There's no doubt about that, Inoichi, but he was right about the apprenticeship. We cannot allow a shinobi to teach advanced fighting skills to a civilian. Training on his own is one thing, but this can only be considered if he were to become a ninja." The slumped man rolled his eyes. "Why are you being so troublesome? The boy already turned down the offer, there's nothing to talk about." The large man spoke up afterwards. "Shikaku's right, Hiyashi, there's no point in arguing about something that's already been decided." A man with the lower half of his face hidden behind the brim of his coat and wearing dark sunglasses stood against the wall behind the others, his face darkened by the shadow of the awning. What we witnessed today was not just his ability with a sword, a fact Hiyashi knows as well as I. What do you gain from keeping quiet about this, Hiyashi? As though the man could sense his thoughts, Hiyashi turned to meet the gaze of the shadowed man. "Is there something you would like to add, Shibi?" "I'm merely contemplating the young man's ability, Hiyashi." He saw the man's pale eyes narrow slightly before a feral-looking woman with a mane of shaggy brown hair and 2 upside-down triangles on her cheeks commented. "His skill is almost unheard of for one so young without prior teaching, but from what I understand, Zabuza Momochi and Raiga Kurisuke were the same way when they became ninja, and they both became one of the Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu." A woman with long straight brown hair, and light brown eyes wearing a violet dress kimono and obi over a lime green kasode was the next to speak. "Wouldn't it be possible to force him into being loyal to the village and into becoming a shinobi using genjutsu?" Killing intent came smashing down on them from not only the Hokage, but Inu, Neko, and Hayate as well. "Absolutely not. If he does not choose to become a shinobi, that will be the end of it. We're not going to force anyone into such a dangerous lifestyle." Forgive me, Hokage-sama." The killing intent lightened and then disappeared. The blonde man looked directly at the Hokage like he hadn't been affected by the killing intent. "Forgive me for my asking, but if you know he will not become a shinobi, why enroll him in the academy, Hokage-sama?" Hizuran sighed. "I admit that I myself would have liked the boy to become a shinobi, and I enrolled him in hope that he would find a reason to want to protect this village." Shikaku muttered a troublesome under his breath. "You mean someone he'd go any lengths to protect, even fighting for a village that hates and mistreats him?" "If I may, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi looked towards Hiyashi and motioned for him to continue. "I believe I have thought of a way to provide him with such a person, an arranged marriage." The feral-looking woman looked at Hiyashi with disgust. "I can't believe you would even consider forcing him and some girl into a loveless marriage for something like that. If we had them start interacting now, Sume, in the time between now and when they could legally be married, they may grow to love one another. I believe my eldest daughter would be an excellent choice for his betrothed. She would be able to keep him well grounded, she's close to his age, and she has a gentler personality than others of the Hyuga clan. Despite my own views on arranged marriages, I will allow you to make such a contract." Sume and several others were shocked while Hiyashi smirked, but she was the only one to speak out. "Hokage-sama, you can't be serious." Hizuran held an hand up to silence her. "However, you must have his legal guardian's signature as well." Hiyashi nodded. "Very well, Hokage-sama, who is the boy's legal guardian?" Sarutobi smirked. "He is. After the actions of his 2 former caretakers, we agreed it was in his best interest for him to care for himself, so he is his own legal guardian." So good luck getting him to sign, and believe me Hiyashi, I will know if his signature is forged. Those that had been shocked by the Hokage's agreement were now smirking while Hiyashi was seething on the inside while trying to retain his composure. Now, I believe there is nothing left for us to do except return to our homes. I thank you all for coming out here. Hizarin, the two Anbu, and Hayate vanished in puffs of smoke, leaving the clan heads alone, they followed suit almost immediately after. Naruto stood beneath the giant tree that stood in his training area as the rain continued to come down hard. I don't understand why it happened again. I never lost control in the spars I've had with Robin during training, so why did I today, or the first time for that matter? And worst of all, it happened in front of them. What if they realized what they saw? I don't think even Oji-san could protect me then. He was broken from his thoughts by a buildup of chakra within his body and placed his hand against the tree trunk for support as he felt his legs growing weak. A blue ripple emanated from his feet and all the plant life around him became brighter and looked more alive than it had when he arrived. How many years has it been now since I first started coming here? 5, 6? And in that short time, I've seen you grow from a small sapling barely getting enough sunlight to survive, to the massive size you are now, towering over those that had once nearly killed you. He heard someone land somewhere behind him and start walking towards him. You not thinking about training in this, are you? Naruto smiled slightly at the worried tone in Robin's voice. No, I just came here to think. He turned around so he was facing her with a smile. So what can I do for you, Robin? I wanted to thank you for what you said to Gecko-san, about reconsidering the 5 of us, and I know I'm not in any position to ask you, but I was hoping you'd do me a favor. I suppose it would depend on what it is, but I'll tell you right now, if some guy's not taking the hint, just say the word. His smile widened as she giggled. That's nice to know, but not what I wanted to ask. I was hoping you'd help me learn to use my Kekkei Genkai better. His smile fell, which she noticed immediately. You know what, never mind, I shouldn't have asked, I'm sorry. She turned around and started to leave, but Naruto grabbed her arm preventing her from doing so. Robin, I don't know how much help I'll be considering I've never even heard of it, but if you'd like I could observe and comment on what I see, alright. She nodded and his smile returned, but not to the same extent. Seeing as it probably won't work too well in the rain, we won't be able to do anything till it lets up, probably sometime tomorrow. Robin smiled. That's fine, my sensei was needed on a mission so my team's off duty until she gets back. Alright then, meet me at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 8. Why not here? Well, it's because that area is fairly open and has a close source of water, but mostly because I don't want you burning this place down accidentally. I nearly did that once myself. His smile brightened when she laughed. Come on, let's go to my apartment, I'll make something for us to eat. The red-headed girl grabbed his hand and started dragging him towards his apartment as fast as possible. Within minutes, they stood outside his door and he blinked several times as if he couldn't believe he was seeing it. I think that's a new record. He opened the door and kicked off his shoes before heading further into his apartment, leaving Robin standing there, as she didn't want to get his couch wet. A few minutes later, he came back out with some clothes in his hands. You need to get out of those wet clothes, or you'll get sick. He handed her the ones he had brought out. They may be a little big, but it's the best I could do. When you're done changing, give me the wet ones and I'll get them in the dryer. She smiled. It's fine. Thanks for everything, Naruto. She kissed him on the cheek and left the room, a small blush on her cheeks. Naruto chuckled to himself, a light blush on his own face. I wonder what she'd do if she found out I'm a clone. Probably set our ass on fire, and I definitely don't want her to do that. I like our ass. The clone paused in his mental rant. That didn't come out the way it should have. He shook his head and in a puff of smoke he was gone. When she came back out, Naruto and a few of his clones were working in the kitchen in a white t-shirt and baggy blue pants. 3 clones had one of their hands covered in kitsune, while in the same hand one held a pan, one had a pot, and the last had a wok. He was just pushing the last of some cut-up chicken into the frying pan when she walked in wearing a overly large black t-shirt that was tucked into a pair of gray sweatpants that's legs were rolled up a few times. Using jutsu to cook, so maybe you're not a great cook. Maybe it's your chakra that makes it taste so good. Naruto shook his head with a smile. Nah, it tastes just as good on the stove, it just takes too long. He walked over and took the wet clothes from Robin and disappeared down the hallway from a few minutes before coming back. When he came back out, he couldn't help but laugh. Robin was chasing after one of his clones, who was trying to stay ahead of her and keep the pan in his hand steady. Come on, just a small bite? Robin, leave him alone, or he'll spill it all over the floor. It will be done in a little bit. Pouting slightly, she plopped down on the couch. So what's the plan for tomorrow? Well, first I think we should test the range you have with it. After that I'd say accuracy would be your biggest concern, and we'll go from there. Robin's gaze went to her lap. Hey Naruto. What's the ability that you wouldn't even tell Hokage-sama about? You said that people would experiment on you if they knew, but surely it can't as serious as all that. Naruto sighed as he sat beside her. Robin, there is one weakness that every ninja from Genin to Kage has, that I don't. If anyone were to find out what it is, I would be dissected so they could find a way to remove that weakness from their own ninja, giving them an advantage over everyone. A Genin could go toe-to-toe with a Kage if not for the elder ninja's experience. Robin's eyes were wide. You're serious, aren't you? What's the weakness? I'm afraid you'll have to figure that out for yourself, but when you do, I ask that you not speak of it to anyone, not even me. In a village like this, there's always someone listening, isn't that right, Neko-chan? They heard some feminine chuckling and looked towards the source. Robin was surprised to find the proctor of the Kenjutsu match standing in the corner of the room, leaning up against the wall. I see Inu-senpai wasn't joking when he said you knew when you were being watched. I came to congratulate you on your match today. The clan heads were quite impressed by your performance. I would have congratulated you earlier, but I had my duties to attend to. I understand, and I'm happy to hear they enjoyed it. I just wish I had been informed I would have an audience. While on the outside he was his usual self, inside he was fuming. Shit, shit, shit. Clan heads mean the Hyuga and Aburame were there, and both clans deal almost solely with chakra, so they must have noticed it, but they haven't dragged me away, so either they don't know what happened, or they're trying to gain something personally from the knowledge. Would you like to stay for dinner, Neko-chan? I'd love to but can't, I have plans for tonight. Naruto smiled brightly. I understand, can't have Gecko-san moping at home for being forced to a tie by a civilian amateur swordsman. Neko chuckled lightly. If he's moping over anything, it's that he can't train you. Sure, he'll be happy to just pass on his knowledge, but you really are something special. Naruto sighed. I think I'd prefer to be ordinary, get into less trouble that way.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.